Long before your dreams were born, before the hum of city lights and the rush of crowded cafes, there was only wind earth and the hush of ancient hills. And in one such quiet cradle, on the mist-swept slopes of Ethiopia's highlands, nestled a secret that would one day awaken the world. It was a modest seed, hidden beneath the green folds of wilderness, its destiny yet unknown. Tonight, we begin its tale. Let your eyes grow heavy as we drift back to the beginning, an age when time moved like honey, and stories wandered in the mouths of shepherds. In the village, shadows among goat herders and their flocks, a boy named Kaldi watched the dance of his animals under moonlight. They pranced and played with unusual vigor, their eyes bright as stars. Curious Kaldi followed their path and discovered a small, unremarkable shrub crowned with red berries that gleamed like rubies in the dew. The goats had eaten them, and something inside those berries had stirred their spirits. Word of Kaldi's discovery fluttered through the hills like a sparrow on a breeze. Monks in a nearby monastery, wrapped in silence and prayer, took notice. They plucked the berries, ground them, steeped them, and soon their midnight vigils were no longer interrupted by sleep's gentle pull. They called it a divine gift, a light in the long hours of contemplation. Thus began the first whispers of a beverage that would travel continents. And from Ethiopia, the tale drifted across the Red Sea to the Arabian Peninsula, carried on camelbacks and merchant tongues. In the 15th century, in the port city of Mocha, in Yemen's arid embrace, coffee found its first true home. There, the bean bloomed not just as a stimulant, but as a companion of the soul. Sufis, mystics, whose chants filled the desert air, used it to sustain their whirling prayers that lasted from twilight to dawn. Coffee became not merely a drink, but a ritual, a sacred warmth in the cold hours of night. In Yemen, coffee was roasted dark and brewed strong, its aroma filling courtyards and market stalls. It was here that the method of boiling crushed beans in water emerged humble, bitter, and fortifying. The drink spread to Mecca, to Medina, and to Cairo, carried in the sleeves of pilgrims and the quiet hearts of scholars. Soon, the Islamic world embraced it, naming it qahwa, a word once used for wine, now reborn for a different kind of intoxication. But as coffee's roots grew deeper, tensions stirred. Religious leaders debated its effects. Was it a divine blessing or a tempting deviation? Some banned it, some blessed it. Yet like water slipping through fingers, coffee found its way into the hands of the people. Quietly, it settled into life. And so it wandered further to the Ottoman Empire, where golden lamps flickered and domed roofs pierced the sky. In the heart of Constantinople, now Istanbul coffeehouses began to bloom like lanterns at dusk. These were places of talk and thought, of poetry, chess, and politics. They called them qahveh, khaneh, and there the world of men came alive with stories, laughter, and plans whispered over steaming cups. The Ottomans refined the ritual. Brass pots, slow-heat sugar stirred in silence. They taught the world how to savor. Coffee became a quiet revolution carried not by arms or banners, but by the soft clink of porcelain and the hush of midnight conversation. By now, the scent of coffee had begun to travel like a wind song, reaching new shores, new eyes, new dreams. And the tale, oh, the tale was only beginning. From the glowing embers of the Ottoman hearth, coffee's journey stretched westward, carried in the saddlebags of merchants, in the eyes of diplomats, and the curiosity of travelers who sipped, pondered, and carried the memory of its taste like a lantern through foreign cities. In the early 17th century, the first whispers of coffee reached the ports of Venice, where Eastern goods danced into Europe's arms. At first, the drink was viewed with suspicion. Some saw it as the bitter invention of Satan. But the aroma was too enchanting and the effect too alluring. When Pope Clement VIII tasted the strange dark potion brought before him by priests hoping for a condemnation, he took a long sip, smiled, and declared that if this was the devil's drink, it was a pity to let only non-believers enjoy it. He blessed it instead. So coffee slipped through the gates of Europe wearing papal approval like a cloak of light. By the mid-1600s, coffeehouses began to open in England, France, and the Netherlands. They were unlike anything seen before. In London, they were called penny universities, for with just 1 penny, one could purchase a cup of coffee and sit in the company of poets, scientists, sailors, and schemers. Gentle murmurings filled these dim-lit spaces, blending the scent of ink and bean. Men gathered not only for refreshment, but for enlightenment. Newton Pepys and even young merchants plotting new ventures across the sea. Meanwhile, in Paris, the elegance of coffee took on a silkier sheen. Served in porcelain, stirred with sugar and cream, it became a drink of salons and intellect, of powdered wigs and whispered debate. The French embraced it not only as fuel for conversation, but as art. Cafes bloomed like night-born flowers across the boulevards, warm oases of music and thought. In Vienna, legend tells of a curious twist of fate. After the Ottoman siege of 1683 failed, retreating soldiers left behind sacks of unfamiliar beans. At first, the Viennese thought them camel fodder. But a clever Polish spy, Georg Franz Kolschitsky, who had lived among the Turks, recognized their worth. He opened the city's first coffee house, adding milk and honey to tame the strong brew. Thus began the Viennese tradition, coffee wrapped in velvet accompanied by pastry and candlelight. But as Europe sipped and savored, another tale brewed beneath the waves. Coffee was no longer merely a secret of mountains and monasteries. It had become a commodity, and like all coveted treasures, it was destined to reshape empires. The Dutch, meticulous and daring, saw its promise. They smuggled live coffee plants from Yemen and began to grow them in the lush volcanic soil of Java in the East Indies. There, in green plantations, shadowed by rain clouds and colonial ambition, coffee found a new home. Java became a name not just of a place, but of a flavor, a rhythm, a distant dream in every European cup. The French followed. In 1723, a young naval officer named Gabriel de Cleur carried a single coffee plant across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. The journey was perilous. Storms raged, pirates threatened, and fresh water was scarce. Yet legend tells us he shared his rations with the little tree cradling it like a newborn. And when he arrived in Martinique, the plant flourished. It gave birth to over 18 million trees and spread across the tropics like a wave of green fire. In Brazil, coffee would rise not just as a drink, but as a destiny. The story is whispered that the seeds were smuggled by a charming diplomat who seduced the wife of a Portuguese official in French Guiana, and in return was gifted a bouquet laced with hidden beans. Whether truth or myth, the seeds took root, and Brazil would one day become the heart of the world's coffee. And yet, behind the beauty of the bean, a shadow grew longer. Plantations in the tropics thrived on labor that was anything but free. Slaves toiled beneath the burning sun, their hands shaping the wealth of others, their stories seldom told in the golden glow of cafe chandeliers. This, too, was part of coffee's story, a bitter note beneath its fragrant song. Still, the world could not turn away. The industrial age arrived with steam, and steel and coffee surged in tandem. No longer the drink of mystics or monarchs, it became the companion of factory hands and office clerks. In every corner of the growing world, from the marble cafes of Europe to the tin-roofed stalls of port cities, coffee was poured, stirred, sipped, and remembered. The 19th century dawned like a slow sip at sunrise, heavy with change, stirred with dreams. Coffee had already stretched its roots across continents, but now it began to shape not just taste, but culture. Its aroma mingled with the breath of revolutions, and its presence became a symbol of modern life. In the cities of Europe and the Americas, the coffee house transformed. Once a quiet refuge of poets and philosophers, it grew into a hub of daily rhythm. In Vienna, waiters in crisp coats moved gracefully between marble tables. In Paris, cafe terraces spilled onto the boulevards filled with laughter and cigarette smoke. These spaces pulsed with thought and art. Painters sketched under lamplight, writers scribbled between sips, and lovers leaned in close over delicate cups. But far beyond the clink of porcelain, coffee's empire continued to expand, driven now by speed machinery and commerce. In the United States, the drink became not just a pleasure, but a necessity. Pioneers heading west packed it alongside bullets and blankets. Soldiers in the Civil War boiled it over smoky fires, its bitter taste cutting through the cold fog of war. By the century's end, coffee was no longer rare or precious. It was part of the daily ritual as common as bread. And yet, as the demand soared, so too did the machinery to meet it. In Italy, a spark was struck that would ignite a new chapter in the tale. In 1901, Luigi Bezzera created the first espresso machine, a marvel of pressure and heat that could conjure a dark, rich brew in mere moments. No longer did one have to wait for the slow dance of a drip or a boil. With the hiss of steam and the scent of roasted bliss espresso was born short, intense, and unforgettable. Soon, cafes began to hum with this new rhythm. Baristas stood behind counters like conductors coaxing crema from gleaming machines. Espresso was not merely a drink. It was a statement, a ritual with a shot of fire. In Rome, Milan, and Naples, it became the heartbeat of the street. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, a quieter revolution brewed. In Seattle's rainy corners and New York's busy avenues, the modern cafe culture began to evolve. What had once been a simple cup of coffee turned into a menu of endless possibilities: cappuccino, latte macchiato. Espresso met milk foam, met cinnamon, and coffee became a canvas for the imagination. By the late 20th century, coffee chains rose like lighthouses in the urban fog. The green siren of Starbucks lit up city streets and airport halls, whispering promises of comfort and familiarity. People no longer drank coffee just to wake. They drank it to linger, to read, to work, to be. The cafe became an extension of the home, an oasis in the electric sprawl of the modern world. And yet, beneath all the steel and glass, the old magic still stirred. Farmers in Colombia, Guatemala, and Ethiopia still woke before dawn, their hands wrapping gently around branches heavy with ripened cherries. They walked the same paths their ancestors had, whispering blessings to the soil, watching the sky for signs. Though the world around them had changed, the essence remained. The bean still needed care time and warmth. A movement began to grow small at first, then louder, richer. People began to ask, who grew this coffee? How was it harvested? Fair trade emerged like a morning breeze, soft but persistent. Roasters began to travel to meet the hands behind the harvest. Single origin labels appeared, telling quiet stories of altitude and rain. Coffee, once veiled in mystery, began to open its eyes. The third wave had come, not a product but a philosophy. It called coffee not a commodity but a craft. Baristas became artists, pouring swans and hearts into cups. Beans were treated like wine, each variety nurtured, each roast honored. People gathered not for speed but for flavor, for connection, for story. And so the story loops back to ritual, to slowness, to the gentle wonder of the cup. But now it is global, and intimate, ancient and new. The modern coffee drinker holds in their hand not just a beverage, but a history that stretches across millennia through shepherds and scholars, emperors and rebels, farmers and dreamers. And as we pause here in the present moment, we feel the echo of every sip that came before. The warmth in your hand, the scent in the air. It is all part of the same dream. A seed that became a story told endlessly through steam and silence. Let us rest for now on the cusp of conclusion. There is one final chapter yet to tell a lullaby shaped by memory wrapped in dusk and quiet song. And so we arrive, dear listener, in the twilight of our journey, a time not of endings, but of reflection, where the echoes of centuries swirl like mist above a quiet cup. Coffee. Once a wild berry on an Ethiopian hill has woven itself into the rhythm of humanity. From whispered prayers to bustling boulevards, from royal courts to humble kitchens, its warmth has accompanied us through ages across oceans and dreams. Even now, as you close your eyes somewhere in the world, a kettle sings its soft tune. A hand reaches for a favorite mug, perhaps chipped with time, perhaps brand new. The grounds are measured, the water poured, and as the scent begins to rise, it carries with it the memories of all who came before. A Sufi spinning beneath desert stars. A scholar in candlelight tracing words across a fragile page. A grandmother in Brazil stirring sugar into her cafezinho. A young artist in Seoul watching snow fall outside a window fogged with breath. The world changes, but the cup remains. It evolves. Yes, new flavors, new tools, new voices. But at its heart, it is always the same. A quiet companion, a pause in the noise, a gesture of care. A bridge between waking and dreaming. Now, in the soft glow of this hour, we feel the weight and lightness of coffee's legacy. It is no longer just a story of trade or ritual. It is the story of connection, of early mornings shared between lovers, of late nights filled with laughter or longing or work, of conversations that stretch into the dark and thoughts that rise like steam into the stars. And beyond the mug and the moment there is the land, the forests and farms, the rains and roots. There is the labor, the hands that still tend to each branch, who still hope for a good harvest, a fair price, a better life. Their dreams are stitched into every bean, and in every sip we honor them, whether we know their names or not. Perhaps then coffee is not merely a drink. It is a thread connecting soil to sky, stranger to friend, past to present. A ritual of becoming performed millions of times each day, and yet never exactly the same. It invites us to notice, to breathe, to listen to others and to ourselves. And now, with the story told, let us drift. Let the rustle of ancient leaves soothe you. Let the memory of distant cafes wrap around your thoughts like warm silk. Let Kaldi's dancing goats, the chant of Sufi monks, the quiet sip of a Parisian poet, the laughter in a Jamaican market, the gentle hum of an espresso machine, all of it carry you gently into dreams. The story of coffee, like the night, never truly ends. It lingers soft and fragrant in the air between one breath and the next. Sleep well, dear listener. May your dreams be warm. May your rest be deep. And may your next cup carry a whisper of this journey. Good night.